So please make sure you're asking whatever questions you have. Please make sure that you're paying attention to the ones that other people are asking questions on, so you can make sure that you know the correct work. You said 21, right? Awesome. All right, so when I take a look at number 21 said, I have 16 is less than or equal to 4 minus 3 times the quantity of n minus 13. I can tell you right now, one main mistake that probably, if you got it wrong, that you made, whoever got this wrong. What do you need to make sure you do from the very beginning of this problem? Serena, what do we have to do? No, not yet. I like that. That is next, but I have to do something first. Here. Chris? You do. You need to do adding the opposite, particularly right before the distributive property. So please make sure that you're doing that, because you need to distribute that subtraction. Sit up, please. You need to distribute that subtraction of 3 times everything in there. Okay? So that's the first thing. So Peter, that's one very small change that has to happen, and then you can get it right. Okay. So Serena, why did you're right, okay, but why did you tell me to do the distributive property first and not add 4 plus negative 3 first? You already did what? Okay, why can't I add 4 and negative 3 first? Why can't I add those first? Colin? Why do I have to do the distributive property first, Colin? Excellent, that's exactly right. All right, so I cannot add these. I have to do multiplication first. So that's the distributive property first. So I have 16 is less than or equal to 4 plus negative 3 times n plus negative 3 times negative 13. Now I think I dropped the requirement of you having to show me that, but I'm writing that down because I need to do that. I need to actually multiply that out. So I want to think about it. So I end up with 13 times 3, that's going to be 39, I think. So I have 16 is less than or equal to 4 plus negative 3n plus a positive 39. So Peter, what should I do next in my solving process? Excellent. I'm going to put 4 and 39 together and add them together. So I end up with 16 is less than or equal to 43 plus a negative 3n. So now that I've simplified both sides, now what, you guys? What should I do now? What should I do now, Nick? Excellent. So I'm going to add a negative 43 to both sides. So on my right, I have a negative 3n. On my left, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do 43 minus 16. I think that gives me a 27, and it's going to be a negative 27. So it's at this point we've got to be careful. Nick, now what? Excellent. So what's 27 divided, negative 27 divided negative 3? 9. This becomes just an n. Do I flip my symbol? Why? Excellent. That's negative. I have to flip my symbol. Who asked me for that? You cool with that? What else can I do for you guys? Colin? Oh, no, I thought that was your arm. Ah! You both have a sweatshirt on. Blythe? 36. All right, 36 said, I have 3 times the quantity of 2 plus r. is greater than or equal to 15 minus 2r. Okay. Blythe, I have the distributive property on that left side, so I have to do the distributive property to get rid of that multiplication. So I have 3 times 2, which is 6, plus 3 times r is less than or equal to 15. I'm going to do adding the opposite, plus a negative 2r. Are you cool with that? Okay. What do you want me to do to start solving from there? Awesome. So I'm going to add a negative 6 to both sides. Remember, there's 4 different ways you could have started that. So I have 3r is greater than or equal to 9 plus a negative 2r. Now what do I have to do, Blythe? What would that be? But they're on 2 different sides of my inequality symbol, so how do I do that here? I need to get rid of this addition of a negative 2r. What can I add to a negative 2r to make it 0? What can I add to a negative 2r to make it 0? A positive 2r. So I am combining my like terms, but the problem is, let's look at what that means. If I go back up to this problem, combining like terms means that I have like terms on the same side that I can add together. How many of you guys recognize that's what that means here? That's why we moved them together and added them. This is not combining like terms. This is moving in this step right here. We moved our constants to one side. That's what we did in that step, is that we moved our constants to one side. So that means in this step, I have to move my variable terms to the other side. So to do that, I've got to add, see on this one, you were right. This is 3r plus a positive 6. I add a negative 6 to it to make it 0, right? To move it over to here. I've got to look at the same idea here. This is 9 plus a negative 2r. I have to add a positive 2r to it for those to cancel out, and a positive 2r to this side because I have to do the same thing to each side. So that's not really combining like terms. That's moving like terms to the same side. Does that make sense? So I have 5r is greater than or equal to 9. And now I just divide each side by 5. And I get r is greater than or equal to 9/5. I'm fine with you leaving it that way. Should I have flipped my inequality symbol, Blythe? Why? Excellent. Okay. What else can I do for you guys? Peter? 47. All right, so 47 it says the directions are write and solve an inequality from each of the following statements. So our statement says 6 minus the sum of r and 3 is less than 15. All right, is less than, that is an inequality symbol. If I had just the words less than, that is subtraction. Can you guys see that? So if I had less than here, that less than 15 means subtraction. Is less than is an inequality symbol. All right, so I'm going to take this apart, Peter, before I write anything else down. I'm going to take apart what I have. If I have a less than, what does that mean my 15 is? If all this stuff is less than 15, is that 15 a maximum or a minimum? It's a maximum. Okay, so I know now that whatever I have has to be that inequality. Okay, let's take this apart. Peter, what does sum mean? No, sum does not mean multiplication. So that might be just the one little tweak you need to make. What does sum mean, you guys? What operation goes with sum? Victoria? Yeah, that's addition. So that means is I'm adding these two numbers together. All right. 6 minus this, when we use the word minus, it's literally that same order. All right, so I'm going to do 6 minus r plus 3 is less than or equal to 15. Why did I put r plus the 3 in parentheses? Why did I put r plus 3 in parentheses? Isabella, why do I do that? Kind of. I mean, it looks like it's distributive property, doesn't it? All right, but you're on the right track. I like how you're thinking. Ashton? Not multiply. There's no multiplication up there. I mean, there is. Well, there really is. Well, technically, now that I've written it this way, there is some like a multiplication up there, but only because of the subtraction, right? If I look at that, what am I subtracting from the 6? What am I actually subtracting from the 6 up there? Jacob? R plus 3, the whole sum, right? I'm subtracting that whole sum from the r plus 3. That's why it's in parentheses. Now to finish solving this, I do have to do the distributive property. Because I do have to say, all right, this is really a 1 there, and because I have subtraction, I do have to do adding the opposite on that. So I do agree with you, because it's subtraction, I do have the distributive property. If that was 6 plus the sum of, I wouldn't have distributive property to do, right? All right, so now if I finish this, I have 6 plus negative 1r plus negative 3 is less than or equal to 15. And now I'm just going to finish this. So I have 6 plus negative 3 plus negative 1r is less than or equal to 15. I have 3 plus a negative 1r is less than or equal to 15. And now I just have a two-step inequality that I have to solve. So I get down to negative 1r is less than or equal to 12. What do I do now? Charlotte? Well, I don't flip the symbol yet. I divide by negative 1, and that's the reason I flip that symbol. Absolutely. So I end up with a positive 1r is greater than or equal to a negative 12. What else can I do for you guys? What can I do for you, Victoria? You mean that once we get an answer? Yeah. At the very end? Okay. So let's, okay, are there any, keep that in your head. Are there any other questions in the homework? Because I definitely want to get to that in our notes. Now put that in our notes. Serena? 64. 64 would be a really good candidate for clearing fractions. Because everything is fractions there. All right, so I have 1/2 times n minus 1/8 is greater than or equal to 3/4 plus 5/6 times n. Because it's an equation, and I have a lot of fractions in there, I am going to clear fractions. All right, what common multiple do I have between 8, 4, 6, and 2? What common multiple do I have between 8, 2, 6, and 4? Chris? Is 16 divisible by 6? I like how you're thinking now. Ashton? 24, I think. I was thinking 12, but then I realized that 8's not divisible. 8's not a factor of 12. So 24. So I'm going to multiply each of these by 24 over 1. If you did not do clearing fractions, please do it. I want you guys to know how to do it and be comfortable with it. So if this is something you had on the high school placement test, getting rid of those fractions is definitely something that would be beneficial. And then from there, you might be able to do everything else mental math for the high school placement test, not me. So let's divide out common factors. So when I do that, my first term is now a 12n minus 3 is less than or equal to, well, 3 times 6 is 18, plus 5 times 4 is 20n. Did I do that right, you guys? Okay, so now I have a variable on both sides equation without any more fractions. So I'm going to do adding the opposite, and I'm just going to finish. I'm going to add a negative 12n to both sides. I like getting my variable terms positive. That's just me. So I have negative 3 is greater than or equal to 18 plus 8n. I'm going to add a negative 18 to both sides. And I end up with 21, right? 18 plus 3 is negative 21, right? So I have negative 21 is greater than or equal to 8n. As soon as I start seeing that, I start questioning that I did my math right, because that's not divisible. But we'll keep going. I think pretty sure I did that right. So I get rid of my 8's. So n is less than or equal to a negative 21 over 8. I can leave it like that, or I can do an improper fraction. I hope that was what our answer was. 2 and 5/8. And that makes sense, because that's right, a negative 2 and 5/8. Because 21 is divisible, divided by 8 is a 2. That's 16. 21 minus 16 is 5. And that gets us our 5/8. What else can I do? All right, get your notes out, and we're going to get to Victoria's question right away. So today is 11/7. All right, so let's practice multi-step inequalities. All right, so let's get your answer, okay? So this is a problem that I did with all of my classes right now are doing inequalities, weirdly enough. This is one that I did with one of my 7th grade classes. I'm just going to, I'm going to have you do this problem, and then we're going to talk about the answer. This is a simple one. It's not super hard, but it allows you to practice a little, and then we'll talk about the answer. Okay. So, you want to consume no more than 3,000 calories in a day. All right. For breakfast, you ate 215 calories. At lunch, you had 1,150 calories. How many calories could you eat for dinner? Okay, so as I read this through and I kind of go through this, when you have your test coming up, or you're on the high school placement test, you have to know whether you have an inequality or an equation. What makes this problem an inequality? What makes this problem an inequality? Jacob?
You don't have to have exactly 3,000 calories.
How do you know that with that?
Because it says no more than.
Yep. Okay. That's going to help me answer your question, is that phrase as well. So recognize that phrase. So there's my no more than. That means that we have an inequality. All right, all of you do this problem, please. All of you do this problem, please. When you're done, check with somebody sitting by you. Remember, you need a game plan. Don't forget those game plans. Parts equal to your whole, or whole equal to your parts. Remember, you need to decide whether that whole is a maximum or that whole is a minimum. And when you're done, write your answer as a sentence. And that's what we're going to focus on, is the how to do that. Okay, someone tell me, what's your game plan? Chris, what's your whole in your game plan? Excellent. Total calories in a day. All right, tell me what makes that up, sweetie. Okay. Excellent. All right, so, Chris, is our total number of calories per day a maximum or a minimum? There's your maximum. So if it's a maximum, what do the parts, the actual that we're eating, have to be in relation to that maximum? Can they be less than or greater than? That's the maximum we can have, less than. Yep. Can it be equal to? Excellent. So, I don't know my number at dinner. All right, Chris, so go ahead and fill in my numbers, please. Less than or equal to? Okay, keep going, bud. All right. Sweet. $1,000. Excellent. Excellent. So what does that mean? Excellent. Nice job. I can eat no more than 1,630 calories at dinner. One of the things that I like what Chris did, well, I like what Chris did with all of this, but one of the things when it got to your sentence, which is what we were focusing on, do you guys notice that he used exactly the same phrase that was stated in the story problem? How many of you guys noticed that? Do that. That will help you. All right? Because if you set up your inequality because this was a maximum and our actual was no more than, less than or equal to our maximum, our answer is going to be exactly the same. Okay? So pay attention to that. Use that same phrase if you want. It can be helpful, okay? Nice job. All right. I'm going to give you a story problem I want you guys to do. This is from our, this one's going to be from our other book, my other book. Okay. I want you guys to do this problem. That problem. Okay. So this is a geometry. This is going to require that you remember formula. So I want you to do number 34 here, please. You're finding the value, possible values of x. Yes. Doesn't matter. No. That's not. I don't want him to, because if it's a square, he can very easily find it, right? Okay, but we're talking about area, aren't we? Okay, so we use the area. So your area is greater than 81 square feet. So you guys should know that area formula for a rectangle, right? When you're done, check with someone seen by you. All right, what's the formula for the area of a rectangle? Or a square, because it's the same thing. What's the formula that I need to be using? Matthew? Area equals length times width. All right, so there's my formula. This one's pretty easy to put together because this A, this is our actual area. What then is that 81? Is that a maximum or a minimum for what our actual area is? Based on what this says. This A means our actual area is greater than 81. So is that 81 a maximum or a minimum? Kaylee? That's a minimum. So when we do our equation, this length times width, that is the actual. So when you're setting this up, it's area is less than the length times the width. So our actual is at 81, or the minimum is at 81, is less than, well, my length is 9 and my width is x plus 2. Because that length times width, that's our actual. And we know our actual has to be bigger than that 81. What do I need to do to solve this now? Kaylee? Excellent. So I have 9 times x, which is 9x, plus 9 times 2, which is 18. Now what, Kaylee? All right, so that's a 7. So that's going to be 63. 63 is less than 9x. Now what, Kaylee? Excellent. So what is x? X is greater than 7 feet. You guys cool with that? Okay, you guys can go.